You're listening to the Talking Headways Podcast Network.
Talking Mondays. Keep moving up. Keep moving up. Talking Mondays. Keep moving up. Keep moving up. Talking Mondays. Keep moving up. Keep moving up.
Happy Monday. This is Mondays at the WHYY, sponsored by our super generous Patreon supporters. I'm Jeff Wood, your host, and joined by Han Solo. That's right, every Wookiee's favorite right-hand man is here to talk about the recent news from the last few weeks, except for last week because I was off. But before I get to the show and the next shows, and usually we talk about what's coming up on the podcast, I just wanted to kind of share with folks that we had a really tough couple of weeks. Last week I took off from work for spring break, and I really needed that break. But it was also because I've had 3 people close to me pass away, all around the same age in their late 70s, early 80s. Just really tough to lose one person, obviously, but losing 3 people that you knew and were close to really, really hurts. So just really frustrating. Cancer is really bad. Late stage, just pain in life is really bad. And so that's just really not fun. But, I just, at some point I'm just like sitting down here in my office and listening to loud music and trying to get away from some of it. But, I just learned a little bit too much about hospice and transitions into the next realm, and just also about like horrible people. So one of my aunt who passed away was a victim of some identity theft. There's a lot of stuff like that that's just like, why are you doing this to people who are in cognitive decline? So it's been a little rough, and the news about current events hasn't necessarily helped, but I wanted to share this with you all because I know that a lot of you are going through stuff too. Everybody is. There's a lot of stuff that's happening in the world. A lot of people are just suffering through a number of different things that are happening, and we're all in this together. We're fighting the good fight together. We care, we love, we share. We want more for life and for others than the universe is giving at the moment, and so we need to just keep moving forward. And there's going to be pain, there's going to be suffering, but also there's going to be joy and memories. And it really is not fun to have so much death surrounding us in these times. But the people that I lost filled me with joy in life, and I can't really forget about that. So I just wanted to share that with everybody because just like it's hard to come in here and get on a microphone and start talking about the stuff that matters without sometimes understanding kind of what's coming from behind me, or what's like welling up on the other side. And it's not to try to garner sympathy or anything. We're taking care of our business and trying to figure out how to deal with it. But it is also just to share with folks because I know that there's other people that are going through some of this stuff. So, it's not just all happy and joy and puppies and butterflies as we love to talk about on this show. But there's some stuff out there that's sad but it happens. It's life and it sucks. But I just wanted to kind of make that clear at the beginning because obviously there's a lot of hard stuff going on right now, but there's a lot of folks who are struggling with harder things. And, some of the things that have been coming up in the news lately, especially about caretaking and the care infrastructure that exists or doesn't exist, has been, coming like straight to my face recently. Lots of folks that are becoming my age are starting to have parents or grandparents that are, in a tough spot. You're taking care of your kids, you're taking care of other folks. My sister has been doing a wonderful job, taking care of my aunt. Obviously, other family members are taking care of the stuff that happened with my uncle who passed. And so hearts out to all those folks who have taken care of people and making sure that everything's okay with them as they're taking this journey late in life. And, we just need more. We need more help. We need more care. And hopefully, we can get some of that soon because I think we need it, and it's necessary to make people feel like they're a part of society and taken care of. And I don't know. It's something that we need to deal with. Okay. So this is a hard transition to the next part of things. And I always try to be, forward thinking and happy and look, at the bright side of things, but there's also some dark stuff sometimes, and that's okay. It's okay because we get through it. Okay. So again, this is a hard transition, but let's chat about podcasts. Let's talk about the news. Let's talk about cities. Let's talk about urbanism. Let's talk about all the stuff that we care about. Last week, we talked with Alexis Madrigal on the podcast about his book, Pacific Circuit. I highly, highly recommend that book, and I think that you all should listen to the podcast as well. If you haven't, I think it's a more important conversation than the abundance conversation that's happening. And not that, Derek and Ezra Klein have written a bad book or anything like that, but this one just hit me at the right time, I think. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of generational trauma, a lot of historical facts that need to be understood before you can talk about what we can do for the future. What does gentrification mean? What does displacement mean? What does root shock mean? What is, what happened, early on with the designation of blighted areas that turned into these places where, Black families didn't have an opportunity to, create wealth for themselves. They kept on getting kicked out of houses, and creating wealth for one group seems to always put down another group. And so I think that book really kind of goes into those details and really kind of digs them up and puts them in front of you in a way that allows us to try to start to think of what something like an abundance movement might mean. So I highly recommend going in there and digging through that history with Alexis. He took 10 years on the book, and so it's really well researched, really well put together, and definitely listen to that show. We'll also have a discussion with Leah Rothstein soon about her book and that her father, Richard Rothstein, wrote with her, which is a follow-up to The Color of Law. I didn't review Color of Law on the show, but I did read part of it in order to get ready for this one, as well as the new book, and Just Action. And that was a really good one, too. It was great to talk to Leah about that. Anthony Flint is coming up, of the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy. His book, Mayor's Desk, we talked about what mayors are doing around the world. Kevin Kryzak is coming on the show. We've also got an AASHTO and NACTO bike guide comparison coming with Bill Schultes. Lots of things coming up the pipe. I've got a couple more books on order to read through and share with you all. I really enjoy doing that. Got some research stuff, got some fun episodes coming up as well, just talking about random stuff about transportation policy. So that'll be fun too. So we got some good stuff coming up, good shows. And I wanted to mention this at the end of the show, the Puppies and Butterflies, but it's probably a good time as any. Also, I'm finishing up my little studio. And so soon I'll have some soundproofing in there and stuff, and so I'll be able to have people over to the studio a little more often, and so we can do Monday shows with people and have people in shop. So I'm looking forward to that and having people live, because sometimes it feels like live is better than having people over Zoom. Zoom is great, it works, but it's also something about being in the room with a person or people to have a conversation is fun. So thanks to everybody who's ordered Bus and Bike scarves. I really, really thank you all for doing that. You can get them by going to theoverheadwire.com or email me at theoverheadwire@gmail.com if you want a bulk order. The bike-only knit scarves are back in stock. We really appreciate folks who have brought that back and are ordering them. And as we always note, we really want to thank everybody for supporting the show, whether that's on Patreon, patreon.com/theoverheadwire, or buying books off the bookshop site, bookshop.org/shop/theoverheadwire. You can also support the show by going to our bookshop store and searching and ordering for any book that you want. It really helps us, and I appreciate the folks who have been doing that too. People have been ordering books that I'd never heard of off of our shop, so I appreciate that. For folks who are ordering Cars Are Cholesterol t-shirts and stickers as well, that idea was helped in part by the design of Richard Wozensky, who is at Dick David Sketches on Instagram. Check him out, bit.ly/Cars Are Cholesterol if you want to get any of that merch. And we also strongly suggest, as always, that folks sign up for the newsletter. Thanks for everybody who's listening. And now maybe we should get on to the show you're waiting for. This is episode 169. We are in session. Before I get to the show, I want to let folks know that they can get this podcast and Talking Headways wherever you find your podcasts, including iHeartRadio, Spotify, Overcast, Pocket Casts, and of course, Apple Podcasts. Thanks to everybody who subscribes through podcatchers. I know that you're here this week because of podcatchers, and I really appreciate it, because I don't probably advertise as much as I should, but I need to get on that. It's been, since 2013 we've been doing this podcast. Better get on this 10 years ago. Okay, here's the news. Here's a few stories that piqued our interest from the newsletter over the last few weeks, maybe over 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, because we were on spring break last week, and that news that's coming from last week. And some stuff, it's interesting. Right as we were leaving, that Sprawl article came out by Connor Doherty. We had Connor on the show to talk about his book, Golden Gates, and I was really sad to see that article written by someone who seemed like they get it. They understand why, YIMBYs are doing the things they're doing, why people need housing, those types of things, and understands kind of the housing market and what's going on in cities. He covered California forever and kind of pushed back on that. And to see this article on Sprawl was really frustrating. I don't think we're actually probably not going to cover it in 2 weeks' time when we start talking about things again, but it just came to my mind. But yeah, these news articles, they come from the newsletter. They are something we choose, and then people pick their favorites. Basically, the ones that are most clicked are the ones that we talk about at the top, and then I throw in a couple of extras as bonuses at the end because I think they're interesting. Maybe I share them at the beginning of the newsletter, the premium one. But if you want to subscribe to the newsletter, you can do so by going to theoverheadwire.com, subscribe, get a 2-week free trial. All you have to do is put in your email address, no credit cards needed, check it out. And then if it's too much for you, you can go down to the basic version, or you can sign out and then we delete your email forever and it's gone. We aren't trying to farm anything, and maybe that's to our detriment. We do things the right way here at the Overhead Wire and at Talking Headways. And so, that's good for you too. Okay, next up. It's limiting the speed for reckless drivers. Virginia lawmakers passed a bill allowing judges to mandate speed limiters for reckless drivers starting in July 2026. Seen as a step forward towards curbing dangerous driving, the measure offers an alternative to jail time or license suspension. This was by Aaron Short in Streetsblog USA. Families for Safe Streets has been really pushing on this. They got one in Georgia. There's probably some more coming down the pipe as well, where they're passing laws in states. California might become, I think, maybe some other states as well. And this is just a good first step. I know Scott Wiener passed a bill, or pushed a bill that was trying to get speed limiting technology on cars that would beep at you if you went 10 miles per hour over the speed limit. But that didn't pass. And so this might be the next best thing, is the people who are driving recklessly, who do get punished by a judge for that fact, they will have that speed limiter put on their car. And so they, will be able to continue driving, but then they won't be able to speed. The unfortunate thing is speed limiters, maybe it's a speed. I need to look this up, actually. I didn't really look this up, but what speeds are limited and where, because there's 35 miles per hour streets, and there's 50 mile per hour streets, and there's 70 mile per hour highways. Where are speed limited? Is it just limiting to people going over 70? You can't do that anymore? I don't know, but I think that the idea is good, and so hopefully this moves forward in a lot of different places. A pandemic-era block party continues. During the COVID-19 pandemic, a group of neighbors in a Philadelphia suburb decided they needed to see people's faces during social distancing and started having block parties. What started out as shouting across driveways evolved into regular gatherings, a tradition now 260 weeks strong that's brought them closer together than ever. This was by Kenny Cooper in WHYY. Yeah, that's so great. It's so great these folks have been able to kind of create community out of something that was horrible like the pandemic, and have continued it even till now. And they're still talking with their neighbors. They're still having a good time getting together on the driveway. It's super great. I appreciate that. And I hope that they keep going 260 more weeks and more. I wish we had more of these things. I guess, it's up to us to organize them, to get people together. People are so busy these days. I'm sitting here at 9:00 at night, talking and trying to be a little quiet so my daughter can go to sleep to finish a Monday show. And I feel like sometimes we don't have as much time as we'd like to do some things we'd like, including these things like getting to know your neighbors or getting to know your neighbors better. So yeah. Road diets are targeted. Idaho is the latest to join the state preemption circuit, as the governor signed a bill restricting the narrowing of roads below 50 feet to accommodate bike and pedestrian paths. Critics argue the safety wasn't a priority of the lawmakers who wrote the bill. This state-level action is bolstered by new U.S. DOT policies that discourage lane reductions as well as safety measures. This was by Nick Rosenberger in the Idaho Statesman and Kia Wilson in Streetsblog USA. There was actually an article today by our friend Megan Kimball about Houston and Paul Betancourt trying to do the same thing in Texas, trying to limit the possibility of lane reductions for bike lanes and bus lanes, as well as trying to get Texas to not have congestion pricing ever. Yeah, so when I was able to chat with TNI ranking member Rick Larson on the podcast, I asked if he was worried about this trickle-down effect of transportation policy from the federal level to the state lawmaking. And this most recent example being the preemption laws surrounding road diets and street design. And he kind of sideswept the question, pushing it aside to mention we should focus on safety issues to make our points. But in the most recent Safe Streets and Roads notice of funding opportunity, it's clear that they are going after road reconfigurations and street design that would improve safety by reducing lanes. Now, it's likely certain Republicans are going to come after street design in two ways. And I thought about this, and this was part of my intro one day for the newsletter. The first way seems like it's at the federal level where funding is going to be tuned to ignore known design benefits, and then state laws that promote these interventions will be attacked by the administration as a second thing. So yesterday or a couple of days ago, Trump said he was going to basically go after state climate laws in order to allow more coal burning, more oil pumping. And I don't doubt that if we continue down this path of federal overreach regarding states, that transportation policy comes at some point. So the second attack on street designs are state preemption laws like the one in Idaho and Utah and Houston that I just mentioned, or Texas that I just mentioned, which don't allow local agencies to reduce state lanes. And in Texas specifically, it's a party platform, the Republican Party platform, to not allow car lane reductions. But now they're trying to put it into law. And so it's not enough to prove that these design interventions are part of an overall safety approach, because this isn't really about facts and reason for these folks. More and more legislators steeped in driving grievance over a bike lane that made them feel slow are going to see what the feds are asking for and then what other states are doing, and then they're going to act on it, right? They're going to try to restrict street design in a way that doesn't help create safety. And so the biggest problem is that aside from pointing out that this is happening right now, I don't really know how we can address it. Like pointing out safety benefits and appealing to reason doesn't seem to work. Rick Larson was trying to do that, basically saying, oh, let's do safety. And they don't seem to care or understand what this means for safety. There's likely some sort of an education component. I know there's advocacy groups working on states to, basically do the right thing and on active transportation and safety, which is helpful, but organizing around targeted road design will need more attention before we all get run over by this kind of preemption stuff that's coming at the federal level and now at the state level. And so I'm worried about that trickle down, but we'll see what happens. It's just frustrating right now to see this continually happening. And we've talked about it a number of times on the show, but we need to end it because it's one of the tools we have in our toolbox is street design. And obviously there's enforcement. There's stuff like the reckless driving stuff that's coming down the pipe that we just talked about, related to judges being able to prescribe speed limiters, but there's so many other things we can do to reduce speeds and also increase safety for pedestrians and vulnerable road users. Regulating warehouse impacts. The boom in e-commerce has come with an explosion of warehousing all over the country. Communities like California's Inland Empire are experiencing the impacts with huge increases in truck traffic. But last year, California passed AB 98, which will require warehouses over 100,000 square feet to mitigate noise, become more energy efficient, and program truck traffic to control air quality starting in 2026. This is by Ariana Nuruzi in Black Voice News. I read about this. This is really super interesting. So AB 98 basically will require warehouses to create transportation plans and program truck traffic to make sure that they're not going near residential areas, make sure that they're reducing their air quality impacts, particulate matter and things like that. And so it'll be interesting to see how they do it. But I didn't even know about this law until I saw this news article, but it's interesting to think about because there's so much traffic now in cities and in suburbs and in, the hinterlands from trucks that are trying to do deliveries for just-in-time deliveries for Amazon and warehousing and other delivery types. And, obviously people want that stuff, but there's also a negative impact of some of it too. When keeping warm kills. In Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, the coldest capital city in the world, carbon monoxide poisoning and respiratory issues are commonplace among residents young and old. There's not enough housing for everyone, so people build round buildings called gurs and burn about 23 kilograms on average of coal per day to keep warm. The result is more children in hospitals with respiratory issues and more pregnancies that result in miscarriages and premature births. This was by Tracy McVeigh in The Guardian. This was a really sad story, and I wish that they all had air purifiers or something. There's just so much, basically suffering from trying to keep warm and burning coal and burning, fossil fuels that, there's so many. The numbers in there are staggering about how many people go to the hospital or how many kids have asthma, how many kids are impacted by the particulate matter that comes from trying to keep warm in the wintertime at these places. It's super cold. Super scary, and definitely read it if you get a chance. Again, as always, I'm putting these articles in the show notes, so check it out. This one was a long one and interesting. Okay. Bonus items. Homeowners in the beach city town of Galveston, Texas are in a rush to sell as the post-pandemic short-term rental boom wanes. But as demand for homes declines and interest rates stay up, prices could decline more than 1,000 homes are currently on the market. This was in Newsweek. I think there was a pandemic, basically Airbnb boom that's now kind of deflating a bit as people are realizing they can't get the same money that they thought they could over time. And so they've got mortgages to pay and they're not able to do it. Researchers have found soil mixes for stormwater runoff treatment that keep the chemical 6-PPD from entering bodies of water. 6-PPD, as you might remember, is the chemical found in car tire dust that kills coho salmon at huge rates. This is an amazing finding, but I can't help but think maybe we should start thinking about how to re-engineer tires to reduce particulates and the use of chemicals instead of rearranging our whole environment for them. We can't change the soil mix of every gully, but we can manufacture tires differently. That's my opinion. Yeah, that was an interesting story. It's a research piece. It's nice to be able to know that you can create some soil that will filter this chemical, but are you going to put this soil on every side of every road? It seems like really difficult, but you can manufacture car tires differently. I think that's one of the things we need to start thinking about is like some of these fixes that we're thinking of for some of these problems aren't really fixes if you have to like do this crazy thing to get them implemented. We need to just think about how to manufacture car tires differently or drive less. Some of that is not possible, but maybe just manufacture tires differently is the way to go. Before the election this month, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has pledged to build 500,000 homes by creating government-sponsored developer to build homes around the country. The program will be sponsored by $25 billion in debt financing and $1 billion for innovative $1 billion for innovative manufacturers. This is in CBC News. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the Canadian elections. Obviously, there's some high stakes there, and hopefully this will work out, and they can build high-speed rail, and they can build more housing, and then they can show kind of what they're supposed to do. Traditional offices retooled by interior designers every so often, but those changes create a lot of waste. In Sydney's CBD, 30,000 tons of demolition material is generated each year. What if there were a more sustainable way to reduce waste and emissions through better design? This was by Architecture AU. I didn't think about that. So people are talking about renovating homes and stuff like that, but renovating offices, you tear down all the partitions and all the cubicles and stuff, and all that stuff goes to waste into, a landfill or something. What if we could do it better? That's a good idea. Transportation is one of the hardest sectors to decarbonize due to the amount of emissions created to produce vehicles, or electric or otherwise. But researchers found that biking can create 30 times less emissions than an internal combustion vehicle and 10 times less than an electric car per trip. This is in The Conversation. I feel like we don't have this conversation enough. I mean, some people are having this conversation, but not everybody's having this conversation enough to where basically talking about like how riding your bike or taking an e-bike is just so much more efficient than driving your car on some trips. 30 times less than an internal combustion engine is huge per trip, not just overall life, but per trip. That's going to be a lot of reduction in emissions. And, you're seeing around the city here in San Francisco, a lot of motorbikes and electric bikes from delivery guys. They're waiting outside the restaurants on 24th Street. They're waiting for pickups, and then they go and deliver food And it's much cheaper than owning a car, and it's much more efficient, and you don't have to spend as much energy. And it's just amazing how much it's changed and how much they see this like kind of benefit coming for them about deliveries on the two-wheelers. And I think that other countries around the world have seen this already, and are, the benefits are there. But here I don't think it caught on yet. But this is an amazing change that's happening even here in San Francisco. Speaking of San Francisco, new San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie has reduced a plans rezoning map for the city that would upzone transit corridors and nodes on the west and north sides of the city, which have avoided recent development. If the city doesn't adequately plan for 82,000 housing units, the state could come in and run the show. This is by the San Francisco Examiner. Yeah, upzone the west and north sides. They have gotten out of all the upzonings over the last 20 years or so. And so it's time for them to stop being NIMBYs and take some of the development that should happen in their areas. I mean, come on, all buildings out there are like 2 stories, 3 stories tops. And, they can get bigger along some of these transit corridors, and they're complaining about it already. It's not like your housing is that special or anything. It's just, some places could get a little bigger. That's all. And it's not going to kill you. It's not going to hurt you. And maybe that actually might make your area more vibrant because you have more people. Transportation-related incidents were the leading cause of job fatalities in 2023, especially for waste collection workers, prompting industry and safety groups to advocate for vehicle designs that increase window visibility and significantly reduce crashes in urban settings. This is in Smart Cities Dive. If you saw the new mail trucks that have been built for the U.S. Postal Service, it's kind of a weird design, but it's also very safety forward. Those types of trucks are the ones that these guys are advocating for because it could possibly help figure out how to reduce transportation-related deaths and impacts. Researchers are finding that the extreme heat a human body can take are less than previously understood. In a warming climate, some people could become impacted with a wet bulb temperature, or the lowest temperature air can reach through evaporation, as low as 26 degrees C or 78.8 degrees Fahrenheit. This is in Grist. So basically, wet bulb temperature is the lowest temperature an air can reach through evaporation. So basically, you put a wet cloth over the temperature gauge, and then however low the temperature can get from evaporation through that process is the wet bulb temperature. So basically, if you're standing in 100% humidity and you just can't, you're sweating, but you can't cool down, that's kind of what they're talking about. And so people usually think, it takes till, 90 degree, 95, 100 degrees to, get the impacts of heat, but it's actually something much, much lower, which is actually really scary. And finally, researchers at Goethe University in Frankfurt took a look at parking policies that are acceptable to different neighborhoods. What they found was a majority of residents supported policies that targeted only SUVs. Livability uses of parking spaces were more important than using them for mobility, and increases in parking duration makes policies more acceptable. This was in the Journal of Transport Policy. This is really interesting. They basically found that residents were supportive of targeting SUVs, of using parking spaces for other things besides parking. So interesting findings out of this, because I think it's different than what most people would understand, which is a couple of squeaky wheels saying, no, we need more parking and we need to use all these spaces for cars, which is what happened with New York City and the dining shed and those types of things. So maybe they should have listened to these folks, which is a European difference, but I still think it's an interesting finding. Okay. That's it for this week of the news. This week and every week, I want to thank our generous Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome and keep the show going by listening and supporting each month. This show and Talking Headways really wouldn't be here without you. So thank you very much. And you can support the show by going to patreon.com/theWHYY. We've had people sign up each month during this many 5-year period of the pandemic. I understand that most people feel like it's ended, but there's still some stuff going around. And, if you want to support the show, you can do so by doing $2 a month. We'll get you some stickers and a handwritten note. $10 a month will get you your bus-only scarf. Also, if you want to get ad-free versions of this podcast, of Talking Headways, sign up for at least $1 on Patreon, and you can get access to the RSS feed that gives you this podcast and Talking Headways ad-free. No ads in your iTunes or anything like that. Just podcast, and then my personal ads, the one where I talk about my bookshop.org site and the Raymond Unwin's Town Planning and Practice. Go to raymondunwin.com, etc. But yeah, sign up for Patreon and you can get the free no ad at RSS. Okay, listener questions and comments. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to email us at theyourredwire@gmail.com. Puppies and butterflies. This is the part of the show where we talk about something fun, interesting, or maybe just didn't fit in the other sections. I'm waiting on Andor still. It's tomorrow night. Andor is here. Looking forward to that Star Wars stuff. But also we'll be finished with our new studio soon, like I said earlier, and I'm hoping to have more people come in and record live as opposed to recording on Zoom. I like the convenience of Zoom, but sometimes being in person is way more fun. Might also record it for YouTube if I get the nerve to let a few edits go. We'll see if I turn a camera on us. Maybe I'll take it from my computer, or maybe I'll get a camera and we'll maybe do that. We'll see. I know I promise lots of stuff, but I just always run out of time, I guess. I had this idea to like record myself finding news every day, and then putting it, doing a live stream or something. Does anybody want that? Does anybody want to go through the news with me every day as I'm searching for stuff? It takes me a couple hours. Might be fun just to talk about what we throw away. I don't know. But yeah, check us out. When we kind of get that stuff together, and then we'll be watching Andor, and then May the 4th is coming up. I need to do something. I need to talk to Moonwitch about doing something, or David Meyer at Streetsblog. We've been talking for years about doing something about Star Wars, May the 4th stuff, about talking about cities and Star Wars. So we'll see if we can get something like that together again this year. And you can find me on Blue Sky, Mastodon, LinkedIn, Instagram, sometimes Threads, Substack, YouTube, and of course on my website and in your inbox every morning if you sign up for the newsletter, and Flickr as Transit Nerds. Everything else you can get me at the Overhead Wire as my username. We're mostly on Blue Sky these days. Thanks for joining us at Mondays at the Overhead Wire. Thanks to our generous patrons for sponsoring this week's podcast. We'll see everybody next time.
Talk